My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only, and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Just to be clear, the people of the state are stalking. The people of the state are stalking under the law, and the malice of the government is not going to protect the entity that is stalking in concert with the government while they do so maliciously where they live, while they do so maliciously on the roads and the highways. It is it is still the exact same criminal stalking, and it is stalking committed maliciously as an entity, the public entity that is acting vicariously through the people. And it is proven, as I've shown you, through the specific environment which is supernatural. The specific environment is the direct evidence to identify the stalker, who is not a private citizen, not on private property, and engaging in no constitutionally protected private speech. That's why the government is stalking, and the sound of that plane is amplified, which is also relevant to what is criminal monitoring that's occurring all around you. All right, that's the pattern of conduct. The city of Ontario is engaging in the pattern of conduct that the entire state of California is engaging in, committing on behalf of the U.S. government. All right, this is Title 18 federal stalking. 317 C Street in Ontario, California, license 9SNX431, license plate 9 U.S.T 293, while the government is stalking you, while you're walking through the neighborhood, while the entity keeps a fake sun over you from morning until sunset. That's how you're able to prosecute. That's how you're able to prove that a stalker that does not know you, but does know exactly who you are. You prove their knowledge and you prove their criminal activity. You're also proving what you need to know. These are demons and that they are mentally ill. That's a mental illness. That's a threat to national security because it's a population. P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, where the entity is stalking me, 7:56 a.m. That's a stalker. License 7VYG417, P.O.C. This is psychopathic pacing. The government, these are demons that are engaged in this. This is what they're doing on the freeway. They're not individuals in vehicles. They're one entity, one vehicle after another, psychopathic pacing over and over and over and over again. And that's the entity. You're looking at the frequency, that volume level. This is what the demons are doing with commercial planes. And they're doing it while engineer light is touching everything. Okay, this is the same neighborhood where the entity is stalking me, in the same streets, the same neighborhood where the fake sun is setting. This is the P.O.C. That frequency of the planes, even if there's a pause, because there was a little bit of time, but this is high frequency for what I'm documenting. That was like 30 seconds later, another plane. The entity is engaging in what is maintaining a ongoing crossing of path pattern, and it's psychopathic. Okay, and they're not separate. They're one entity. It's the whole group that's maintaining ongoing presence, and that is surveillance. This is P.O.C. This is stalking. And this is stalking on behalf of the state. So the people of the state are essentially, when you're understanding the notion of demon possession, it's the spirit of Satan that is compelling, animating. It's the personification of Satan operating in a vessel, in a person. With regard to gang stalking, the people of the state are the vessels, and the state is that entity that is operating through the people. All right? It's the same notion, that's the same idea. And this is Brightview, first of all, because you're going to prosecute the company. This is the demon that in the neon jacket. He's behind this wall right here. This is the demon possessed person who was acting with the state that is stalking by plane. Now I'm capturing video right now because this is the video that's following regarding what he's actually doing. This is stalking while you're walking in relevant positions. Stalking is relevant to presence, any type of presence. The government is stalking, and the government engaged in right before I took this video, which is why I'm capturing video now. The government flies in a large commercial plane and dips right here and does a cartwheel. And that's why when I start the video, you see the plane flying back in this opposite direction. And this demon, which represents Brightview, is stalking. Okay, relevant positioning, he's pacing. In other words, this conduct going back and forth around me, and he's doing so with his person, but he's stalking with all the rest of the people. And this is where the government is stalking by planes, engaging in the cartwheels. This is exactly what they're doing at the Stater Brothers. This is exactly what they're doing throughout the neighborhood while I'm walking. This is what they're doing at the Ontario Town Square, and they're doing it through the people of the state. The people of the state, commercial companies that are going to be prosecuted for what they are actually engaging in, which is criminal surveillance. Brightview's malice is that they employ what is the incidental engagement in landscaping services while criminal surveillance is underway. It's a fraudulent business. Its purpose is surveillance, and that's why they have this neon jacket on, and this is the demon that's actually stalking, while the government engages in what is me and doing cartwheels over the Ontario Town Square, where there are no planes from the terminals at the Ontario International Airport that result in any plane in the sky space, let alone hovering and doing cartwheels and then flying back around in the opposite direction. And while you're doing it in my face, while you're doing it while you're keeping my evidence under surveillance, while you're doing it malicious as a fraudulent business, that's a federal RICO case. That's relevant for what is damages. in a civil case regarding criminal activity which is serving the conspiracy to murder. And the people of the state are engaging in this. This is what Stater Brothers is engaging in. This is what the entire Ontario Village Shopping Center is committing. The government, all right, that's it, analogous to the spirit of Satan, is doing through the people of the state, analogous to the demon-possessed person, who are gang stalking. This is at the Ontario Town Square. This is P.O.C. Second, let me get the time. It is 8:21 a.m. Brightview is engaging in terrorism. I'm going to prosecute them. P.O.C. All right, it is currently 10 a.m. This is documentation, it's 10:01 a.m. This is documentation of the public removal of domestic terrorist Paul Leon, the criminal activity by the municipality. This is the City of Ontario that's engaging in stalking with light. And the City of Ontario is engaging in stalking with light when at 10 a.m. the fake sun is here as well. So this is an iteration of the same psychopathic pacing, and they're doing so where the fake sun is out and they're walking on the engineer light, and they are pacing in the engineer light, and they're doing so as a group effort. They're doing so while the entity is gang stalking with those that committed kidnapping. All right, that's what Alexander Grigg is doing. He's gang stalking, pacing just like he is inside of the building and engineer light. FedEx is gang stalking with the peculiarized light in the path. That's what the entity does when the fake sun remains over me. In the same manner that I come from Stater Brothers, walk through the neighborhood, fake sun remains over me, airport, police department stalking, and so are third parties like FedEx, are state actors like the City of Ontario. This is maintaining the light activity. While you're walking around in that engineer light, this is activity creation. The OVITT Family Community Library maintains engineer light in the bathroom. Alexander Grigg is a sex offender, okay? And he's also a psychopath engaging in pacing just like he did now, putting out the cones as form for what is being in the presence. Remember, this environment is supernatural. So you're talking about the fake sun. It's the same thing with regard to rain and the appearance of the necessity to get in shelter, where they're stalking by the commercial planes, no longer flying over the square. You're looking at my pictures. They're doing cartwheels right here and now flying over the senior center complex, over the city hall where Paul Leon's going to be removed from office. This is P.O.C. That's Southwest Airlines. And you're paying attention to when I'm sitting at the wall and they're flying over the clock, over the field, over the amphitheater location. License 1567279 and Securitas. You're mindful of the video. I'm going to show you they're doing the same exact thing that they're doing in the morning when the fake sun is over me, and you're understanding what is stalking with light is the purpose of psychopathic pacing, which is what Euclid Avenue is doing, is what they're doing walking in and out of the library. That's what they're doing in the sky space by the airport, and that's why in the same walkway the entity is maintaining what is the video I will also attach for you to remind you about these demons of the City of Ontario using the resources of the municipality. This is the criminal expenditure on resources, the facilitation, the funding and supporting of terrorism, which Paul Leon is relevant for a federal prosecution. Paul Leon is a terrorist leader. And the entity is engaging what is maintaining the fake sun on this side of the building, where, based on where I'm located in the building, and you see the engineer light all along the ceiling, all over the demons that are gang stalking inside of the library. That's impossible light. The sun, first of all, it's not the sun, but it's hovering, and it's not reflecting off of their windshields and bouncing into the depths of the library. This is where Securitas is gang stalking, stalking with light. This is a demon. This is not security. Okay, you are made insecure, you are under threat while a demon is engaged in criminal surveillance and calling itself a security company. Securitas is engaged in criminal surveillance, and they're doing so in the same environment where I'm this same walkway again, fake sun in the morning, fake sun in the afternoon after 2 or 4 o'clock, where Southwest Airlines is also stalking. This is the significance of what they are engaging in. It's criminal surveillance. The purpose of the ongoing maintenance of the engineered light activity. Okay, this is the P.O.C. and the municipal employees, the African American, he's been gang stalking. I've been capturing. When you're practicing the pattern of conduct with the state and you're engaged in, you're documented as a serial stalker, you are going to prison. And this is the African American I'm documenting. This is terrorism that the American citizen is documenting. He's gang stalking me inside of the parking garage of the Ceres Regis, where it's already known that they're gang stalking, and so is the City of Ontario utilizing these vehicles. He's gang stalking me as I documented in images inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. He's also gang stalking while I'm capturing this morning while the entity's doing a cartwheel right here by commercial planes, following me from the square, not flying over my head over there, now flying over here, concentrating. That's stalking by the airport, just like they are at Stater Brothers in the parking lot. And this is the entity showing you how they're stalking with light. That's the purpose of the fake sun. They're all stalking with light while the entity's engaging in surveillance. There's no airport
that flights from the terminals that are going to be flying over the city hall, over the city senior center, over the senior citizen complex, where anthesis is gang stalking. Okay, the entities engaging in this pattern of conduct in concert with the people, maintaining that environment, and it has nothing to do with their headlights. It has nothing to do with sun reflection or sunlight. These are demons in that specific environment, and Paul Leon knows all about it. This is the maintenance of a corrupt system. This is why also the entity is stalking so heavily by the Ontario Police Department at the venues where I remain. This is why I have the documentation of the fake sun rising and setting. That's what's relevant regarding what is absolutely criminal. All right, none of it is lawful, none of it is authorized, and Paul Leon will be prosecuted like any other foreign terrorist, and so are the terrorists that are gang stalking under his corrupt leadership, engaging in vagina monitoring. That's the reality of what the city of Ontario is engaging in, and doing so through the vehicles that represent the municipality, and they're demons. So the entities engage in psychological torture. As I document them, they come closer. They engage in more stalking by plane. They engage in more light activity, doing so as they are gratified by it, stalking you, and also engaging what is, under my circumstance, monitoring the evidence. And that's going to inform prison sentences. That's going to inform what is the civil damages, okay? When the people of the state are inside and I'm documenting them sparking with light, that's the iteration of the stalking with light conduct by those that are stalking inside of a building when they don't have a car, when the fake sun's not under the roof with them. They're stalking with light. They're demons, manifesting light, monitoring. Okay, this is P.O.C. and this is a terrorism. This is a scene of terrorism and its harassment while they're monitoring, and it's also relevant because of the fact that I'm documenting it. Okay, this is P.O.C. It is current at the OVITT Family Community Library. Alexander Grigg is engaging in what is criminal activity in the path. He doesn't have any protection under the law with regard to being at work where you're engaging in what is actually surveillance under the guise of what is the corrupt system of gang stalking at OVITT Family Community Library. And that's already known. That's why the entity has such a ridiculous environment where Sean Thrasher and everybody else is engaging in what is keeping my vagina under surveillance, which they are accomplishing through what I've already shown is the impossible light activity and the ongoing maintenance of light stalking. 64761 Frank 4 P.O.C. All right, the entity is maintaining surveillance throughout the duration of the day, and this is the prosecution of the city of Ontario. This is P.O.C. This is the behavior of stalkers. He's going to prison, so this is the reward. He's standing in Engineer Light, monitoring with the same people of the state that are stalking with light, monitoring my evidence, and then intentionally coming into the path to gang stalk you conspicuously in your face with the kidnappers of OVITT, who are all going to prison. So let me show you what a psychopath is doing. This is the stalking conduct. You're in the Engineer Light. You're monitoring me. You're monitoring my vagina as well. You're waiting for me to pull my panties down so you can engage in what is noise making in the Engineer Light while you're pacing around, monitoring the evidence, aware of what I'm publishing in real time, and stands right in front in the Engineer Light. He's pacing. The shadows on both sides of his person is speaking to the intent and the knowledge. And this is the state. This is the Ontario Police. This is mental illness, and this is a demon. This is the behavior of demons, and this is why the Nephilim are going to be made an example of in California. This is P.O.C. This is pacing. Those two females, they're pacing together. And they're all here stalking. Remember, the fake sun is aimed in here after 4 o'clock in the evening. He's stalking. And this is the city of Ontario. Paul Leon is being fired for terrorism. He's going to be federally prosecuted as a terrorist leader. He's funding terrorism and facilitating it. This is P.O.C. 10:21 a.m. This is OVITT Family Community Library. Currently 11:36 a.m. As you can see, February 19th. This is documentation regarding federal stalking by the entity that is currently engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct. This is punctuated by the stalking by the Ontario National Airport, the Ontario Police Department, the City of Ontario, as I'm documenting this morning. This is essentially the entity. So the entity is actively engaging in what is gang stalking and furtherance of murder, and is at the same time keeping me under surveillance on the internet, which is proof of surveillance, proof of targeting, knowledge of who I am,
knowledge of what it is that I'm doing on my device. That's also proven through the P.O.C. itself with regard to the entity stalking with light, doing so under what is the supernatural, the fake sun. The entity has engaged in what is surveillance online with regard to blocking my account. This is an unlawful threat to my life. This is relevant also to the ongoing surveillance and obstruction tactics on YouTube, where the public investigation is published online. The entity, as I'm accessing my account to publish information regarding the criminal activity that the state of California is literally right now engaging in, the entity has blocked access to my account. So I want to capture this. This is upon accessing it on my phone. Inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, they are gang stalking. They're doing so in furtherance of murder while actively blocking my ability to publish the evidence while they are stalking obsessively, monitoring my vagina, simultaneously blocking their identities while they are actively seeking in furtherance of the conspiracy to murder someone. This is what an entity does, keeping you living in a bubble while they're stalking you until they take your life. Okay? They're doing this while they steal your identity. They're doing this while they are kidnapping you. And this is the entity that is indeed going to federal prison. Daisy is here, the entity that's at the OVITT Family Community Library, the entity that's gang stalking and kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department are engaged in surveillance on the venue of the internet, where I'm documenting the entity stalking at Stater Brothers, the airport stalking at that shopping center, the airport, the City of Ontario following to the Ontario Town Square, the City of Ontario employees gang stalking, the entity doing so inside of this venue that's filled with engineered light. Okay, this is where they're engaging what is taking things apart and then putting it back together and calling it repairs by the City of Ontario that are monitoring with the people of the state, engaging in surveillance in that environment. This is an unlawful threat to your life. It is committed in furtherance of murder. It's federal stalking under the same statute, Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2, and it is committed with the intent to preclude, to stifle, to stop, to deter, while the entity is still gang stalking, seeking to deter your publishing that evidence. And that's the murderer, that's the kidnapper. Okay, that's essentially the gang stalking police department that are stopping you from publishing their identities while they complete taking your life, and then they control the narrative at the same time. They do so in concert with the people of the state. This is relevant to that pattern of conduct on the venue of the internet. So I do want to go ahead and document the entity that is blocking my account. And so this is precluding the public from being able to access my account as well. So I'm looking at what you would see were you to look at my evidence online, where an American citizen is pleading for help, seeking to attract attention about what the government, the population is doing to them, and that entity that is seeking to obstruct access. I want to be clear, Don Quinones, everybody inside of Stater Brothers gang stalking, that's federal prison. I just want to be clear on that. This is what an entity does with regard to taking the life of an American citizen to silence them and then removing the evidence. What the entity is doing to me, the entity is going to federal prison for it. Okay? They're doing so with the Ontario International Airport. These demons that are engaging in what is the ongoing maintenance of criminal surveillance through the airport, which I am documenting following me throughout the City of Ontario, where there are no flights that would be departing from any of the terminals, Terminal 2 and Terminal 4. There's only 2 terminals where there are arriving and departing outside of what's published on the website that is shared by the City of Ontario International Airport, and also doing so in a manner that is clearly showing to be targeting me, proven through that environment and proven through knowledge about what's published online, where it is inexplicable ongoing means of accessing my accounts outside of my consent and knowledge, relevant to indeed surveillance, seeking to obstruct justice. And this is relevant to federal prison. Okay, these are terrorist leaders. These are not executive board holders. These are the entity and their demons as well that are engaging in criminal surveillance as I've exposed them. And while I document, the entity is targeting me on the venue of the internet, which is an unlawful real-time threat to my life. The Ontario Police Department, even the OVITT Family Community Library, have already exhibited with regard to what is criminal summoning, and you're immediately kidnapped for an inexplicable random amount of time based on making up charges based on the criminal conduct shared by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department and the courthouse. This is indeed an unlawful threat to liberty and to your well-being, to your life and your safety. And this is that which is shared by the entity that is documented as I'm documenting them. The entity seeks to obstruct justice by blocking that evidence that's on the video of the internet. Not only is it relevant to its probative value, that's why you're trying to block it. You're still gang stalking me while you're simultaneously trying to suppress evidence, and you're going to prison for that. You're going from being documented as a terrorist, which is a federal case for terrorism, to federal prison as I document you in that evidence that is being blocked on the venue of the internet, where that American citizen's life is subject to an ongoing real-time threat, because the entity is acting in furtherance of murder, and that ongoing emergency remains in existence. Okay, this is relevant to the criminal conduct by the airport that's engaged in the pattern of conduct. This is relevant to the terrorist leader with regard to the gang stalking by the airport, the gang stalking by the police department, the gang stalking by the fire department, the gang stalking by American Medical Response, the so-called EMTs operating emergency vehicles who are sharing the pattern of conduct, the gang stalking by the municipality utilizing the resources of the city to engage in surveillance, like what I'm documenting on the Google Drive and what I'm documenting on my device regarding the City of Ontario, stalking with light, using the vehicles, doing so at the facilitating venues such as OVITT Family Community Library and the Ontario Town Square. All right, the people of the state that are documented gang stalking me are published on X this morning, showing what it is that I'm subject to, showing the ceaseless pattern of conduct, criminal monitoring and furtherance of murder in the neighborhood grocery store, which is punctuated by the entity stalking me in that parking lot, showing how they're stalking in the store, and they are also stalking on behalf of the state, and that's shown as I walk outside of the store. Lupe and the gang stalking customers are sharing in the state's pattern of conduct, and this is the substance of what is published online while I'm documenting the P.O.C, and this is relevant to those that are aware that they're being documented, not because they're looking at me, even though they shouldn't be, because I'm not looking at them. I'm not holding my phone up in a manner where I'm like, look, say cheese, I'm documenting you. I don't say anything. I'm holding my phone in a manner where you are necessarily assuming that I'm even focused on you, and they're always looking directly at me when I'm documenting them, and this is just circumstantial evidence. You already know that they're monitoring on the venue of the internet and on devices. These are demons. Moreover, they're doing it under the fake sun and an engineer light. They're walking around holding a carton of milk with double and triple shadows. They're stalking inside of the store. This is why the entity is engaging in, this is surveillance in the grocery store, and this is psychotic. This is the entity that then goes behind and blocks what is supposedly innocent conduct. And so this is what is so probative about what is exposing the mental illness of the people of the state who are demons, who are aware that they're being documented, and their awareness is not through their ongoing psychotic act of stalking you and not looking at you and not knowing you, but through their ongoing incriminating behaviors such as criminal summoning, and also the obstruction that I've documented on the venue of the internet, where you are targeting me online, aware of what it is that I'm doing on the internet, apparently, because what is drawing attention to it, and what is drawing attention to what is seemingly innocent conduct of walking by in the grocery store. Moreover, it's something that is not under any circumstances private. I'm not in anybody's home taking pictures of their children in the nude. To the contrary, the entity is engaged in what is violating me being in my home, in my private space, in the private space of the restroom, keeping me under surveillance, keeping my genitalia under surveillance, placing cameras on me and putting that on the internet. And this is what the entity is seeking to block from you being able to see the demons who are indeed gang stalking. And this is relevant to federal prison. Okay, they're engaging in psychopathic pacing inside of the venue. This is Kia. Okay, and they're gang stalking at the register. This is the federal RICO case, standing in engineer light, doing so. They're engaging in the pattern of conduct as I exit the store at 7:04 a.m. The fake sun is so low, it's underneath the structure. And this is a stalker in perfect alignment. The entity, I'm documenting what is my purchase, and this is indeed Kia. This is evidence, and David Quinones is in the store. This is relevant to federal prison, because this is exactly what's going to happen when American citizens are subject to the conspiracy to murder by being targeted, and then that government is then seeking to control, suppress, remove evidence, even by kidnapping, which the Ontario Police, the entity, has committed several times over the course of my documentation. This is engineered light above the structure, underneath a covered structure, while the engineered light is also stretching into underneath a structure. This is all manner of impossible light activity while the people of the state are stalking, and I document that, okay? And every license plate is speaking to those that are sharing in what is obstruction of justice, while the entity is also stalking by commercial planes. This is impossible light that the employees are walking in monitoring me. This is psychopathic pacing, while they are also engaged in vagina monitoring at Stater Brothers, where the entity is targeting. Okay, psychopathic pacing in the parking lot. And this is an entity that's not only engaging in what is criminal monitoring, stalking me as a population, they're also engaged in surveillance on the internet, and this is relevant to what is locking my account. This is the entity that's engaging in it. And by the way, there is nothing that you have any privacy rights to regarding your license plate, nor walking around in the grocery store. In addition to that, the government, which is what the people of the state represent, have no privacy. And in addition to that, you have no privacy, and you will not weaponize the idea, the notion of privacy, in order to protect yourself from being prosecuted, gang stalking an American citizen. There is no basis under any circumstances why my account should be blocked. It's relevant to surveillance, and the entity is subject to federal prison for it, and I will be prosecuting these online venues. They're third-party venues. All right, this is P.O.C. This is relevant to the ongoing targeting on YouTube as well, and it's an unlawful threat to my life. They are pacing in and out of the store while they are stalking. This inexplicable, psychotic, and deranged obsession with stalking, engaging in their deranged pattern of conduct, is relevant to an unlawful threat to my life, and they are also doing so with knowledge of the fact that they are being documented. And the targeting on my website is, and on my platforms X and YouTube, for example, is the evidence of that. So that's when I document. They're walking in and out, and they're doing so in Engineer Light, which also fills the grocery store, and they're doing it while the entity is stalking by flying over the sky space, where again the terminals 2 and 4 are where you were taking off. You're not going to be hovering like this, and it's also speaking to where there would be no plane activity even in this location, and it's all punctuated by what is the entity's ongoing pattern of conduct of aerial surveillance, and then the people on the ground, the people of the state who are demons in that Engineer Light, pacing all around, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm documenting them while they're doing it, and I'm documenting their license plates. And as I publish this on X, the entity is locking my account. That's a federal offense. Okay, this is relevant to what the entity is indeed engaging in, and it is relevant to what is an unlawful threat posed by what is the entity accessing my accounts, removing evidence. And so I wanted to show this is relevant to what is blocking my account, and it's an unlawful blockage of my account. I documented this yesterday on X. What I'm publishing about the state actor Jason Fields is removed off of X. X is a part of the entity, and so is Jason Fields, a gang leader conspiring my murder and stealing and conspiring with Tracy Banks, and he is subject to federal prison, including while the entity removes evidence. Everything I put on my social media is evidence that's removed, and which is serving to protect the entity while my life remains under threat. Okay, this is the P.O.C. It's currently 11:52 a.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library in the specific environment where the demons are pacing in and out, because that's what that is. Administration pacing in and out of the door is a means of them stalking with noise in the Engineered Light. Okay, they're doing so while the entity keeps the fake sun, and today, while the fake sun is covered up, the entity is engaging what is stalking with the city of Ontario, surrounding with the vehicles, maintaining peculiarized light, doing so with FedEx, doing so with the people of the state at the downtown Ontario luxury apartments, doing so with Budget and the third-party companies that are surrounding while they are monitoring, and they are stalking with light and doing so just as I show you what all of the entity is doing under the fake sun. All right, this is Title 18, federal stalking. This is federal stalking on the venue of the internet with the intent to obstruct justice. P.O.C.
This is stalking by the Ontario International Airport, and this is on whose behalf third parties who reek of urine are stalking the people of the state. They get out of their cars where they're stalking with light outside to pace around me where they're stalking with light inside on behalf of the government, and they do so offending my senses, smelling like urine, and then asking me questions when you're stalking. You know exactly what's going on my phone as a demon, as a vagina monitor, as a state actor who's engaging in state surveillance. The entity that's engaging in this gang stalking, doing so at the OVITT Family Community Library, as I documented, Rosa and her gang stalking children who are over and under the age of majority, engaged in psychopathic behavior, pacing just like they are now in the sky space and on the roads and the highways. That's what they're doing inside of this building. This building that has my shadow up right in front of me right now, while there's no light bulbs above my head, even though that wouldn't explain that. And demons are stalking an engineered light in the engineered environment with the entity that is stalking as a government system, and you're asking me questions that you already know the answer to in this light activity. Asking me if I'm filming you and you're monitoring my device, that's the audible activity of a psychopath. A psychopath that engages in things such as the deranged behavior of stalking in commercial planes. But these urine-reeking third parties can't afford planes. That's the state that's engaging in that. And they're engaging in what is gang violence inside of the library and engaging in what I published on X. That's relevant for what is harassment. And the government's going to be prosecuted for the harassment of the third parties who are gang stalking, just like this. Because this is what they're doing. Rosa's sons pacing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth like psychopaths. This is what the entity's doing in the sky space. I just want to be clear. They are going to federal prison. Assault and battery with a knife and a dangerous vehicle. A dangerous weapon. The psychopath that's also gang stalking me on behalf of the state, they're going to federal prison. And they share in mental illness. This is psychopathic behavior. There's not even any airport over here. So they're maintaining ongoing plane activity for little old me. And for my genitalia between my legs, they're using planes and spending thousands of dollars every day on keeping me under surveillance. And then they are engaging in what is harassment while the filthy demons that are gang stalking me with these psychopaths on the inside of the venue are doing so in an absurd environment with regard to sharing mental illness and asking me stupid questions that you know the answer to because you're embarrassed to be a vagina monitor, a stalker. Who smells like urine? Those are the feces consumers stalking in commercial planes and helicopters as well. You smell like urine because your brain is decayed. That's why you're gang stalking me. Gang stalking in commercial planes. And any federal court is going to prosecute and shut down the airport because there are no airports, no terminals behind the Ontario City Hall. The entity is engaging in this conduct, and it is directly incriminating the urine and feces reeking third parties that are stalking me at the OVITT Family Community Library, where the entity is stalking with commercial planes. You're asking me questions about whether I'm filming you, and you're monitoring my vagina and my device. And you're doing so having the audacity while you smell like urine. That's the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, and they're doing so as a means of harassment while you are, in every regard, in need of being committed. And that's exactly what's going to happen to the gang stalking pilots and to the gang stalking demons that are engaging in what is defecating and peeing on themselves while they're stalking me. These filthy bastards are going to prison and they're going to be committed. Stalking with light, they're going to be committed. Stalking in planes and helicopters, they're going to be committed. Stalking under a fake sun and stalking with all means of light, like I'm showing you the city of Ontario is doing, they're going to be committed. This is P.O.C. That's a psychopath, the type that smells of feces and urine and is stalking me and then gets an attitude when I am documenting that vagina monitor. That's what's in California. That's what has the audacity to try to defame someone else. That's what's going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. This is relevant to the harassment. You'll see it published on X, where the entity is engaging in surveillance, removing my evidence off of and blocking my account with regard to what's supposed to be innocent conduct when you shouldn't even know where I'm at or what my account is. That's the entity that's asking me stupid questions. I'm going to prosecute you with that audible activity. This is what you have when you have welfare recipients with no education and poor hygiene gang stalking me because I'm going to embarrass you and prosecute you with even those details. This is the pattern of conduct at the OVITT Family Community Library, where they're all monitoring in between my legs and know exactly what it is that I'm documenting. And while they speak as the state, they're going to federal prison just like the state actors are themselves. That's psychopathic pacing into the garage, like they're engaging in psychopathic pacing at the library. They're doing so in engineered light. Psychopaths that do so under the fake sun that I've shown you day and night at this venue, where my shadow is appearing in front of me on this sign, and you have the audacity to ask me a stupid question. I'm going to absolutely embarrass you on the internet, and that's the state speaking. The psychopaths that are stalking in planes and helicopters, that's the state. The incompetent, the corrupt, the demon-possessed psychopaths who need to be put on the map. They're sex traffickers, they're murderers, they're stalkers, and they're thieves. And they're engaging in gang violence. They are a group of the inept. And they are being not only humiliated, they're being federally prosecuted. This is evidence of the severe mental instability and the corruption that's underway. And you already know what's going on my device when you're being documented. And for the state to be stalking and also asking me questions that you know the answer to, that's a state actor that's going to federal prison. And you're going to be committed. You will be mentally diagnosed with the ongoing malicious audible activity that betrays you and shows the mental illness that you've been trying to conceal. This is P.O.C. While the government is stalking by planes, the people of the state gang stalking with those psychopaths as a state actor are sharing in that pattern pattern of conduct, and everything coming out of the third party's mouths who are smelling like urine is the state speaking, and it's the state stalking, and it's the state threatening. This is P.O.C. at the OVITT Family Community Library. It's currently 9:51 p.m. This is stalking. And about 4 minutes earlier, Ontario police did the same thing. And this is while the entity is triggered by what it is that I'm viewing on my phone. These are highly unstable, overly emotional, easily triggered feces consumers that smell like urine, who are hostile while I document them stalking me. As they commit criminal activity against me, they engage in more of it and I document it. And then they review it on the internet, where they are also monitoring and stalking me online. And this is the entity that is stalking. You understand how late it is right now. It's after 11 o'clock. This is the Ontario Town Square where the fake sun rises as well. This is where the entity is stalking. The entity is doing so while they are engaging in stalking together as the city of Ontario, where there are no planes that are hovering over, first of all, a senior citizen complex. But yet the Ontario police are getting calls about me yelling over here. UPS is hovering over the roof like they're taking off from the roof of this senior citizen complex. Nobody's complaining about that at 11 o'clock at night. And there's no airport over here, okay? The airport is located at 2500 Airport Drive. This is 303 East B Street. This is Lemon Avenue. And they're flying west, where you know that they're still hovering over me at the entrance of the Stater Brothers, which is not a straight shot this way. The entity is stalking me wherever I'm at in the city of Ontario, just like the people of the state are. That's called stalking with light, not traffic. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in what is stalking at 11 at night. Let me give you the time right now, because this is speaking to what is the entity that is severely mentally ill. That's why they smell of urine while they're stalking me. That's why they engage in things such as stalking with impossible light activity. That's why they do things such as stalking in places like bathrooms. These are the highly unstable who are engaging in criminal activity, and the mentally unstable have secured themselves position such in the government, such as being associated with an airport, being in a position of authority, where the mentally ill have strategically placed themselves as demons to engage in what I have exposed as public corruption. And they're the demon possessed that are gang stalking. And that's why you have at 11:10 at night, commercial airline planes that are hovering over a senior citizen complex. These are old people. Airports are not taking planes, are not elevating in planes over senior citizen complex. This is a multi-family zone. And this is supposed to be the quaint area. And this is the entity that's doing so while you are hovering over this location because they're obsessed with me. Okay? This is an entity that's engaging in what things such as vagina monitoring. A demoralizing, despicable, disgusting, deranged, demonic, humiliating, and highly criminal sex act that they're doing while they're engaging in what is conspiracy to murder. And understand, the planes and the helicopters in the city of Ontario, they are operating based on what's going on between my legs. That's how mentally ill the entity is. I'm controlling the air traffic because they're monitoring and stalking me, and they're monitoring and stalking my vagina. And then out on top of that, I'm documenting them obsessively stalking me, and they smell of urine. They have poor hygiene. You know why? Because they don't take a nap. They're engaging what is stalking me and thinking about stalking me all day and all night. That's what is relevant to the Ontario police who are stalking. Moments before, I just captured this damning video, which is relevant to the permanent removal of the Ontario International Airport. Those that smell of urine are the same population that are stalking in commercial planes. Highly unstable, very poor hygiene. Okay, a decaying mind, stalking in the middle of the night. That's the entity that's engaging in that. That's a stalker. They just wanted to get their turn pacing around, and that's the mentally ill. They're doing so with regard to what is going to be a prosecution of the mentally ill. The mental illness is psychopathic and antisocial, and they're engaging in what is an enterprise regarding murdering people while they are sharing in mental illness. This is the entity that's engaged in that. It's currently 11:12 p.m. This is going on the mental illness playlist regarding psychopathic pacing. Understand the airport is miles from here. You're not taking off from the airport and then hovering over anywhere over the Civic Center at the city of Ontario. They are pacing along with their demonic buddies that smell of urine, the people of the state, driving around the turn circle, audible activity. And by the way, they're flying over the senior citizens that are engaging in gang stalking as well. That's why the old gang stalkers that are over 55 with liver spots are not complaining about plane activity, which is never a part of any sort of zoning. It's out of bounds of the law based on zoning. It's also out of the bounds. Where are they flying back toward? The airport? Because the airport is in that direction where you're flying miles over here and hovering in the west direction as though you're engaging in some sort of takeoff. This entity is engaged in all manner of chicanery regarding aerial surveillance. This is P.O.C. It's criminal while they engage in cartwheels. It's criminal while they're hovering over the senior citizen complex. It's criminal while they are stalking me. And this is the entity that's doing so pertaining to what is my vagina, which all of these people that are stalking right now are maintaining detailed surveillance regarding. And that's why Mike LORENZ, that's why Paul Leon, that's why Alan D. WAPNER, to name a few, mentally ill sex offenders are being removed from position. Because the entity having access to helicopters stalking me here at this library, that's relevant to the entity asking me questions about what I'm doing on my phone. And while the entity is engaging in that, what's analogous to that? Claiming that you're stopping me because of the municipal code when I'm at the bus stop. That's the malicious audible activity of a psychopath that's monitoring my vagina and is very well engaging in what is a desperate means of stalking me. And that audible activity, which is a lie, is also going to be used with regard to medical professionals who are going to diagnose. That is psychopathic conduct. Likened to those who eat their feces and who smell of urine. That is who is stalking me in planes and helicopters. They have no business in the sky space being in these positions. That's what I'm exposing regarding gang stalking. The mentally ill who are murderous, violent sex offenders, and they are demon possessed. They're unstable and they would like to misrepresent themselves as being elite. There's nothing elite about gang stalking. And there's certainly nothing elite about those who are reeking of urine, stalking me and pacing around like unstable psychopaths in the middle of the night. The air traffic in the city of Ontario is based on what's going on with my vagina. That's why the Ontario International Airport is being shut down. And this is not hyperbole. This is how pathetic that they actually are. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:14 p.m. Sarah's Regis Group is going to be prosecuted. That same conduct right there is what they're doing when I'm at the Ontario Town Square and I'm being molested. Remember the video where impossible light activity is moving across the wall of the amphitheater while a demon is driving in and out of that parking garage. They're stalking, and that's the demon-possessed security. The security that are demon-possessed in California are threatening your safety. They're not security. These are demons that are mentally ill, and that impossible light activity, which I have volumes and volumes of evidence of, is the same evidence that's going to have them committed. And they will never fly another plane or helicopter, ever. P.O.C. It is currently 11:15 p.m. where they does not take a nap, doesn't take a break from stalking me. P.O.C.